Sounds good, Pete. Welcome back. Good to hear you.
Thanks, buddy. It wasn't the same without you last week. I was trying to interview the hospital staff, and they just kept telling me, Mr. Thompson, stop ringing the bell. Shut up. This isn't your show. Stop doing that. Busy weekend. Let's start off with last night's game, though, because, man, Holy Spirit goes out and beats another quality team last night as the Spartans beat Mainland.
Yeah, I mean, the Holy Spirit boys basketball team, they should play a big rivalry game every night of the week, and they'd be undefeated this season. You know, they got 2 wins over Pleasantville, a win over Atlantic City, and last night they beat Mainland Regional. You know, those are arguably Holy Spirit's 3 biggest rivals, and they're 4-0 against them this season. A great job last night by the Spartans, taking a big step towards clinching a spot in the Cape Atlantic League tournament with last night's win.
Now, did you take a thermometer in there to gauge how hot it was in the gym? I mean, I know that Holy Spirit in a packed gym, I mean, they try to vent however they can, but when it's full like that, you know it's a big game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a couple of weeks ago about the column I did on some great settings to watch high school sports in Atlantic County, Cape May County, and Cumberland County, and I mentioned Holy Spirit's gym. It lived up to that last night. 2 great student sections, both Holy Spirit and Mainland Regional. 2 spectacular student sections. I think Holy Spirit, give them some credit for originality. They were dressed all in red, and they had a guy dressed as Moses, and at one point he actually parted the Red Sea. So I think midway in the third quarter. They were body surfing a little kid up and down the stand. So just a tremendous high school basketball atmosphere, and a great game by Christian Kalinowski, Joe Glenn, and Henry Rovelod really led the way for Spirit last night. And Mainland, let's give them a shout out here. 15-5 on the season, their first loss in the national division. They can still clinch the division with a win in one of their 2 next division games. So just a spectacular setting and a great effort by both teams. 61-47. It was much closer than that final score, however.
Yeah, you write in the Press of Atlantic City, and I got my hard copy today on my door, my blue bag. Thank you, Kim Johnson, my man, that puts it right there so I don't have to go very far. Subscribe to the paper. I remind my listeners of that every single week. Please subscribe to the paper. You're not going to get this content anywhere else. The Spartans, you write about the fact that they took a big step toward clinching a berth in that Cal tournament. I mean, Mainland already was pretty much projected, and they could have clinched the division. They were kind of a lock, but Holy Spirit, that's a big step for them.
Yeah, I mean, the top 2 teams in each division get in the tournament. It's an 8-team tournament. Cape has 3 divisions, so the top 2 teams get in, and then there's 2 wild cards. So, and in that national division, Mainland Regional still controls the division, but Holy Spirit, Ocean City, and Cedar Creek are kind of battling for that second spot, and of course, one of those teams will probably get a wild card too. So there's kind of 3 teams for 2 spots there. And with that win last night, combined with, earlier, 2 wins over Pleasantville, a win over Atlantic City, I think Holy Spirit would have a pretty compelling resume to get in that tournament, which starts, February 24th.
Mike McGarry is with us, Press of Atlantic City. You can follow him on Twitter at AC Press McGarry, like I did this week when I was laid up. I had a little mistake there, McGarry. You had started tweeting about ACIT and EHT, and I thought you were at the girls' game for 2 tweets until I realized, oh, wait, these are boys. This is a boys' score. You're at the boys' game. So it took me a little while, but hey, nobody ever called me the sharpest knife in the drawer. We're talking about boys' basketball and the Metro Classic. That's one of the 2 big events that's taking place this weekend on the boys' side of things. So you featured today Wildwood Catholic getting ready for the national spotlight as they're going to play the Patrick School. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Metro Classic and what's going to take place there tonight?
Yeah, the Metro Classic, we got a story on the front page of our paper today and online right now at pressofac.com. Wildwood Catholic will be playing the Patrick School at 7:30 tonight. The Metro Classic, one of the premier showcase events in the state of New Jersey, and it really has a national feel this weekend. It'll be played in Toms River at the RWJ Barnabas Health Arena, I believe, at Toms River North High School. because it's got great games all day. And Wildwood Catholic will play the Patrick School at 7:30, and then at 9 o'clock after that game, Sierra Canyon of Los Angeles, California, which of course features LeBron James' son, Bronny, features Dwayne Wade's son, will play Long Island Lutheran, and that game will be broadcast on ESPN3. So really a national type event, and Wildwood Catholic, a school with less than 150 kids, will be playing, the Patrick School at 7:30 before that game, before what is sure to be a packed arena in Toms River.
RWJ Barnabas. I mean, somewhere the ghost of Buddy Epson is saying, "What are you talking about my old show for, Barnaby Jones?"
Yeah, I mean, that arena has had about 19 names. It was started off as the Rataco Center. I think it was a car place. If you go in there, the password for the Wi-Fi is still Cadillac, left over from one, I think it was the Pine Belt Arena. So it's had about 5 or 6 names, and this is its latest moniker, basically.
Just in case that was before your time, Barnaby Jones ran for 8 seasons from 1973 to 1980. Mike McGarry, go ahead.
I'm right there with you, Pete. Thursday nights, I believe, about 10 o'clock. Lee Merriweather and Buddy Epson.
That is right.
So, I'm right there with you.
Buddy Epson and Lee Merriweather. Wasn't Lee Merriweather one of the Catwomen, and wasn't she also Miss America?
I believe you're right on both accounts, Pete, right there.
Only this you can get on the Pete Thompson Show on your radio right now.
Showing our age and our mastery of useless knowledge.
Oh, I am definitely the Cliff Clavin of useless knowledge.
There you go.
Ancient Mesopotamians, Norm, I'll tell you, things like that. All right, so that's the Metro Classic. Now, what's interesting to me is, so that's tonight at the Metro Classic, what you just described, and yet some of those teams, including Wildwood Catholic, will then shuffle on over to Paul VI in Haddonfield for their Paul VI Winter Classic.
Yeah, it's a tough weekend for Wildwood Catholic, sort of an NBA weekend, right? Because they play a Saturday night game, and then they'll come back 3 o'clock tomorrow against Paul VI, who's one of the more talented teams in South Jersey, at Paul VI. So that's a tough weekend for Wildwood Catholic. And it's a Wildwood Catholic team that going into this weekend feels like they've got something to prove. Last Saturday night at the Battle by the Bay, they lost to Seton Hall Prep 64-44, kind of a lopsided defeat there, unexpected. And I talked to Jacob Hopping, the Wildwood Catholic senior swingman, for the story, and he kind of said, the team wasn't right last week. They had some people not feeling great. Didn't make any excuses, but Wildwood Catholic wants to show this weekend that last weekend was kind of an aberration. Wasn't really wasn't really them at their best. So they're hoping to send a message this weekend, tonight and tomorrow, and make people forget about what happened last Saturday.
Yeah, and you mentioned and you wrote in the paper, I took scissors and cut it out. This is the old school way that Pete Thompson prepares. 4 press area schools: Millville, Atlantic High, Wildwood Catholic, St. Augustine Prep. So let's start with Millville. What are your impressions of the Thunderbolts right now, as they've got a noon tip-off tomorrow against Morristown?
Yeah, they're 8-10 this season. They've played pretty well in that American division. They're in 3rd, 4th place in that division. Kobe Edders had a nice season for them. Romaine Rhett. It's an always competitive Millville team. It's kind of a rebuilding year for Millville. We know the great season they had last year when they went to a South Jersey Group 4 final. And what I've been impressed by what they've done is they've been able to, they're right in that 500 level, and they're bringing in some new players and kind of a solid rebuilding year. And that's what you want to see out of some teams, right? If a team has a really great season, you don't want to see them fall off the map, and Millville has kind of still been there, still been competitive, and still been a factor so far this season. So a great job by the Thunderbolts so far.
And then Gene Allen and Atlantic City, they play Malvern Prep, the school out of Pennsylvania. That's the next game, 1:30 tomorrow.
Yeah, and I believe a little update since then. I believe Atlantic City has had to pull out of that game because they were afraid of playing too many games this season. So I saw Gene Allen last night at Holy Spirit, and he did mention that to me. But, it's an Atlantic City team that's starting to play well, Pete. I mean, they had the game against St. Augustine last Friday night at the Battle by the Bay. Close game. St. Augustine kind of pulled away late. Atlantic City comes back with convincing wins over Pleasantville last Sunday, and then they beat that Millville team that we just talked about pretty handily this week. So it's an Atlantic City team that's starting to peak at the right time, and it's an Atlantic City team that has a big game Tuesday night, the rematch with St. Augustine at St. Augustine.
All right, well, then that leads naturally, since I feel like we've covered Wildwood Catholic, we can talk about Paul Rodeo's Hermits and what St. Augustine is shaping up like this season.
Yeah, St. Augustine just kind of rolling along. I mean, if they're 16-3, 17-3, and if it's possible for St. Augustine to have a quote unquote quiet season or be a quiet 16-3 and 17-3, it's them and what they've done this season. They've sort of had to handle some adversity. Kevin Foreman, their senior point guard, out for the season with a stress fracture in his foot, so they've kind of had to adjust to that. And, they've showed some character this week. ACIT, your school, Larry DiGiovanni, great coach, goes into St. Augustine and gives the Hermits all they can handle. They led at the half. They led early in the fourth quarter, but St. Augustine got a standout game from John Horner, hit some key three-pointers. They've also gotten great efforts from sophomore guard El Marco Jackson, and they were able to win that game. So it's a St. Augustine team that might be a year away, Pete, but is still having an excellent season at 16-3 or 17-3.
Well, since you brought up the school I work at, 63-58 over Oakcrest last night. They bounce back on the right side, and they get 21 from Nuruddin and 23 from James Waugh.
Yeah, I mean, a great season so far for them. A school record for wins. Larry DiGiovanni, one of the great coaches in Cape Atlantic League, has gone into ACIT and done a great job. We saw them play the game you were tweeting about that I was at, ACIT EHT, earlier this week. And in that game, Carlos Lopez, the great sophomore guard for EHT, scored 21 points, and then he came back with 39 a couple of days later, so he had himself a great week. But a lot of reason to be positive for ACIT, and a team that, is kind of on the fringe of that Cape Atlantic League tournament, but a team that has a school record for wins in 12 and a team that's definitely headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and then at the bottom of your late-night hoops roundup, as I click on that, the St. Joe boys, right? That score 79-52. I mean, quietly 14-3, hovering around the periphery where people maybe don't get to see him as much and realize, hey, the Wildcats are pretty good.
Yeah, two good players there. You're gonna, for a 1-2 combination of underclassmen, you'd be hard pressed to find a better combination than junior guard Marcus Pierce and sophomore forward Daniel Skillings. They've been impressive every time I've seen them. And they also have a freshman, a kid by the last name of Theophile, had a great game against Middle Township earlier this week. So you got a junior in Pierce, you got a sophomore in Skillings, you got a freshman in Theophile, you got all the bases covered there. That's another team with a lot of upside, not only for the rest of this season, but, in the future ahead.
Well, real quick, I'll read a couple other scores off. Middle Township and Pleasantville wins 79-60 at Middle last night on the boys' side of things. Wildwood roughs up Glassboro 63-38, Bridgeton 58, Cumberland 26. Lower Cape May wins 72-56 over Salem. We mentioned ACIT and Oakcrest, and then there's a girls' score thrown in there. The Olma girls are now 16-4, and that's a nice transition into girls' basketball, is 16-4 for the Villagers.
Yeah, a great season for them, and Jaden Harris just continues to post incredible numbers. I think off the top of my head, I'm going to say maybe 11 points, 17 rebounds last night, really having an excellent season. And Olma right there for the Cape Atlantic League Girls Tournament with a 16-4 record.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, because I did a little look in there at your recaps and things, the Cape Atlantic League Finals, what's the breakdown? Before we get into today's or at the Shore, what's the first round, second, what's the breakdown on those dates and locations?
Yeah, the 24th, that Monday, the tournament starts with the first round games. And remember, this year, all division winners will get a first round home game. So it starts that Monday, 8 boys teams, 8 girls teams. Then you go to Wednesday and Thursday, the semifinals. I'm not sure off the top of my head which group goes boys Wednesday, girls Thursday. I think it's girls Wednesday, boys Thursday, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, sounds right.
And then the finals are the 29th at Stockton, noon and 2. You know, one of the great days of the high school sports season, you know, regardless of, you know, you go from September to June, there are certain days that are highlights. You know, the first weekend in December for football, you know, baseball, the Diamond Classic, well, the Cape Atlantic League Tournament the finals on the 29th at Stockton, noon and 2 o'clock. You know, always a great day for high school sports.
No doubt. Where are the locations this year for the girls? Is it still the same for girls and boys on that Wednesday, Thursday when they get to, like, semis?
Yeah, the boys will be at Absegami. The girls this year are at Ocean City, which has caused some ruffles among Cape Atlantic League girls coaches because, of course, Ocean City girls are, you know, a perennial power. And, you know, they're always there. They're the defending league champions, so they will be hosting the girls' games this year. So that has some girls' coaches a little frazzled, but we'll see how that plays out.
I mean, didn't they play the girls' games at one point way out at St. Augustine, you know, and the hook was the girls got to play at St. Augustine?
Right. The girls' games were at St. Augustine. This year they're at Ocean City. I think, you know, I think they're hoping for more central location, maybe increase the crowd for the girls' games. And, of course, you know, and Ocean City stepped up and offered to host them, so credit to Ocean City. So we'll see how that plays out this year.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's end with the War at the Shore. I mean, I remember my man Carl Geisinger back in the day, I think 2004, first year I was here. He's like, yeah, we got this little tournament. You got to come over. And that might have been one of the first ones, or maybe it wasn't even called that at that point. But you've got, let's see here, Manchester Township, Ocean City, and Mainland Regional, 3 of the Press Elite 11 playing today. 2 gyms going, rocking and rolling over in Linwood. I'm going to stop by because I want to see Kylie Watson play as a senior in person. And then there's a team playing at 11:45 that I have some association with as well. But tell us about the War at the Shore, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, another great event, one of those great showcase events. This one has a little bit of a theme going here. It has Cape Atlantic League teams against their Shore Conference counterparts. So Cape Atlantic League team against the Shore Conference. A lot of talent on the floor. You mentioned Mainland Regional. They'll be playing Manchester Township, the defending state Group 2 champions. Of course, in the Tournament of Champions last year, Mainland and Manchester met. Manchester had their way with Mainland that day. We'll see what happens today. Manchester, number 2 in our Elite 11. Mainland also ranked. Another great game to watch out for is Middle Township plays Manasquan. Manasquan, a perennial state girls basketball power. That's another good matchup. You got Ocean City, Raritan, I believe, later in the day. Just a lot of great basketball. Like you said, the 2 gyms at Mainland, a lot of activity. If you're looking to see some of the best girls basketball in the state, Mainland Regional is the place to see, place to be today.
Yeah, $6. You can't beat it. It's free for children under 5 years, and all the money goes toward the girls' basketball athletic program. So I'm going to stop by, and I urge some of my listeners to stop by if they're in the area as well. All right, Mike, save a sandwich for me. I'll be in a hospitality room at some point. I will tell you, as you broke down the dates of that Cape Atlantic League tournament at Stockton, believe it or not, I'm going to have to miss that day. I have to be in teacher training, of all things. What bad luck I have. I won't even be able to host the Pete Thompson show that day, which maybe we would have done live at Stockton. Like, that could have been something awesome. But c'est la vie, real job gets in the way of fun job. You'll have to carry the banner for me.
Pete, that's the way it goes. Pete, you got like Johnny Carson's schedule or something. You got a guest host there, but always good talking to you, and always great when you're in the studio.
I'll let Ryan know that you called him Jay Leno, and I guess that makes Hunter Hunter's David Letterman. He really could be the host, but he's the host behind the host or something like that.
Exactly.
All right, Mike, we'll talk to you again next week, my friend. Thank you.
All right, Pete, we'll see you down the road. Thanks for having me.